Are you ready to learn how to grow your interior design business? Welcome to the lounge, the Chaise Lounge. So get comfortable, grab a glass of Cabernet, and let's talk the business of interior design. Now, here's your host, Nick May.
Well, welcome and thanks for joining me today in the lounge. I'm Nick May, your host, and today we're going to be talking about growing your interior design business. So whether you're in Chicago, Milan, or St. Charles, Illinois, I know you want to do one thing. You want to grow your interior design business, and we're going to do just that by finding out how successful designers do that from around the world. But before we jump in, let me remind you, you can connect with me at the ChaiseLoungePodcast.com. You can also connect with me on iTunes and Stitcher. We've got a great show today, guys. It's a long one. Let me remind you that you can stop the show at any point and come back to it, but there's so much good stuff in here. And I've got an announcement. I'm very excited. We have a new sponsor for the show. As you are probably aware, VA Staffer has been supporting us and will continue to do so. But we have a new sponsor called Design Manager. It's a software that's going to manage your whole entire design business all in one spot. And I've got an interview with Lindsay Paoli, who's the Director of Sales and Marketing for Design Manager. And that's what we're going to jump into first today. It's about 15 or 20 minutes, but it's chock full of good stuff. How they started, why this is a software piece that you need to know about, and you can try it for free. Lindsay's going to tell you how. So let's jump into that, and I'll see you on the other side. So today we're talking with Lindsay Paoli, and she's the Director of Sales and Marketing for Design Manager. Lindsay, what is Design Manager?
Design Manager is a perfect solution for a serious interior designer, someone that's looking to run a business and also design. Simply because it is integrated completely from start to finish. So once the designer or design assistants put in the items, then they can follow that through very easily with few clicks, instead of having to re-enter information into the accounting piece as well. So it's a very integrated product. It is project management and accounting software specifically created for interior designers.
So basically, this is a piece of software that will help them track and manage their whole entire business.
Correct.
So I've talked to a lot of different designers about, working with these kinds of software pieces. How long have you guys been around?
We've actually been around since 1984, so we have a very long history of working with interior designers. We work with them closely, and we listen to suggestions. I think that's a really big selling point for our company as a whole, is that we really try and stay as much in tune with our clients as possible.
And where did the idea come from? Why did they start this company to begin with?
We actually were programming software for accountants and law firms, and we were just doing custom software until we came across in our little section of Pennsylvania. We're in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and it's a really high-end area with lots of designers around us. So we had designers come in, do a focus group, and they really needed software. They had pain points, and we had the programmers and the accounting background to create something for them. And so we started it very small and kind of grew it from there, grew into the New York metro area, and then it kind of exploded during the 90s into the 2000s.
And I'm guessing that 1984 to 2015, the software has probably changed over the years. How has it changed?
Yes, technology moves very fast. We try to keep up with technology, but give you a user interface that is easy to use while putting in all the features that are new and exciting. Because when you're using a software for that long and you're a loyal client to us, we want to make sure that your experience doesn't completely change overnight if we come out with an update or an upgrade. So the user interface is very important to us. Some of the things that have changed throughout the years specifically would be, we started back in the DOS days. So if you remember the screen, when it was black and green, we were there. And then, we transitioned into Windows. And then, most recently, just talking about the cloud revolution and how that's really taken storm. We were the first ones to come out with the cloud software for interior designers. We started gathering that technology back in 2003, 2005, and we actually released that in 2007.
So a lot of designers you may have just lost. We've heard this term of cloud computing for quite a while. So can you bring it down to maybe the 5th grade level so we all can understand? Because that's probably what I need.
Absolutely. It's actually really not hard to understand, because the way that I explain it is really just that the software is no longer installed on your computer. It's actually going to be installed on servers that we have running in a data center. And the beauty of that is that you are logging in over the internet. So you're actually connecting to a much powerful environment than you have sitting in your office. So you can leverage, more robust servers, faster internet connection, and the security is just as good because we're using a completely encrypted tunnel back and forth. And you're not actually sending the data back and forth in our solution. It's really just pictures of the data.
And my guess is that this is probably a simpler way for you guys to update the software on a regular basis too.
Absolutely. We no longer have to get into your computer, diagnose your network, and see what operating system that you currently have and figure out how to work best in that area. Since we're doing all of the hardware on our end, is so much simpler to put out an update and just push it out to everyone that we have using our cloud software.
And one of the things I like about pushing everything to the cloud is that I have access to just about all of my files and customer databases wherever I am, and no matter what computer or mobile application that I'm using.
Absolutely. Convenience. That is the number one thing that you get by going to the cloud, is just being able to access that data, look at a proposal, look at an invoice, send it to your client. If you have a chair that you really love that you forgot about for another client, you can look that up while you're at another client's site. There's so many uses, but the number one thing is convenience by far.
So I want to get into kind of the nuts and bolts of what you can track. But before I do that, I want to ask you, you mentioned this thing about it's totally integrated. Kind of bring that down for me a little bit. What does that mean?
Sure. So if you plug in some items, say you have a chair, table, a rug that you love for this one area that you're working on for a client, you plug that in, just the basic information, or you can go crazy, write up a whole description. Once you get that in there once, you don't have to do anything again with that information. It's in there, and it will then appear on your proposal, it'll appear on your purchase order, it'll appear on your invoice. So it goes through the design process, and you never have to retype that information. Also, on the back end, that money information, so the cost and the price, will also filter through to the accounting piece of the software. So you don't have to retype that in either.
Yeah, because that's how you guys started out. You were doing accounting software.
Exactly. So we have a really good grasp on the back end. We, follow GAAP principles, very accounting heavy and strong. So it gives you much better flexibility than QuickBooks does, particularly in the deposits and retainers area, where designers seem to fall short with QuickBooks.
And is it a system that accountants can pick up and run with as quickly? Because I'm sure a lot more accountants are familiar with QuickBooks than maybe your software.
Of course. You're always going to have people that are more familiar with QuickBooks because they're a much larger operation. They appeal to many people. And QuickBooks is a fine general software, but to be able to use that for the interior design industry is really trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So the accounting specific question, yes, accountants can easily pick up. A balance sheet is a balance sheet is a balance sheet. An income statement is an income statement. All the financials are the same.
So if I'm a designer and I'm using Microsoft Office with Excel and Word docs and all that kind of thing.
Sure.
How does that look like, or what does that look like when I would come onto your system? How am I going to use that on a daily basis?
What you're going to do is you're going to be more organized in our system because there is a system in place that you follow. So you do certain steps first, and then you do certain steps second. When you're working just with, Microsoft Excel over here, Word over here, you have to build that system. You have to say, oh, I'm going to save it and I'm going to name it this so that I remember it, 2 weeks down the road when I come back to look at it again. We take all of that work out of it for you, and you just follow the standardized flow of Design Manager.
So if I'm a designer, the one thing I would think, Lindsay, hearing all this great stuff is that sounds great, but I'm not necessarily technically savvy. How easy is it to get up to speed and learn how to use your system?
You know what? The bottom line is designers love Design Manager because it's really thought of from their perspective. It follows the natural flow of a design project. So it's very easy to get started and get going with Design Manager. Also, we have taken that into consideration, and we have really great training tools. We do live webinars every week, every other week, according to the schedule that we put forth, and it's all listed out on our website, so you can visit our live webinars page and register for them at any time. They're free. We also do live demos, so that's the most basic thing that we offer. That's just here's how you put a design project through Design Manager. So you can do a combination of the demos and the webinars. And then the nice thing is that if you can't attend one of those webinars, you will be able to listen to that anytime on our YouTube page. So we have a very extensive YouTube page filled with videos that you can watch anytime. And those webinars, they're all centered around specific functions in the software. So if you're looking to see how to do proposals, or see how to do purchase orders, or maybe balance your checkbook, if you're not, bookkeeping savvy, but you still want to know, since you're the owner of the business, how that gets done, you can easily watch that webinar. We try to keep them around 45 minutes so they're easily viewed and able to be stopped and come back to later. But that has been such a great thing that we really started up 2 years ago. So we have a good library of those out there for you to learn. And those, of course, are free of charge. Now, if you wanted to go a route more specific to your business and get personalized training, we can easily do that too. We can log in with you, shadow you online and over the phone, and do personalized training, and that's $95 an hour.
So you've got kind of the structured webinars, then you've got YouTube where people can kind of go at their own pace and revisit things, and then if people need specifics, then they can also do one-on-one training.
You got it. Good summary.
That's awesome. So it all sounds great. How expensive is it?
Well, we actually have two versions. We have a version that is geared towards a regular design firm where you're just doing custom design, flowing through the normal design flow, about 1 to 5 users, working off of a normal fiscal year. And if you don't even know what that means, then this is the perfect software for you. It is built for people that are doing that, just that. That is $35 per user per month. Now, we also have a pro version, which is a little bit more involved. Say you have way more than 5 people in your company, you need more access, you have more volume going through, you have more complicated accounting happening, maybe you have a showroom in addition, maybe you have a furniture line, things of that nature. I'll push you into the pro software, and that's $48 per user per month.
Oh my gosh. I love that pricing. That's fantastic.
Another beauty of being in the cloud and having everything for us standardized is that we can pass on those cost benefits to our clients.
So you guys used to just do desktop versions, right?
Yes, we did. We did desktop for a long time, obviously, and we still do it. We still offer it. I would say about 3 out of 4 people, even today, it's almost 4 out of 4, honestly, that go with the cloud option. But if you aren't comfortable, we do still have that option for you.
And what's the price difference with that? I'm guessing that's not a monthly fee, but a one-time fee?
It is. It's a one-time fee, and for the regular Design Manager, it's about $1,000 plus about $500 per additional user. And then for the Pro, it's about $4,000 plus another $1,500 for each user.
That's a no-brainer on the cloud-based.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if somebody wanted to try this thing out, is there a trial, like a free trial?
Yes, there is. We can set up cloud trials for you right from our website. If you just do the free trial button and you pick whether you want Design Manager or Design Manager Pro, we'll have that set up for you within 1 day. And it's a 30-day trial, and it operates just like the normal software. There's absolutely no difference, and we can save all the information that you put in there when you purchase.
I love that. I love free trials.
It is the best way to really learn if you like the software or not, is to do a trial. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Lindsay.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate it, Nick, having us on. Love talking to designers, love getting their feedback. So this is a really great channel.
Well, I'm super excited to be starting a relationship with you guys, because I am sold out that people need to have a good system for managing their business, and I haven't found a system that's better than what you guys offer. So thanks for coming along and partnering with us.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it, Nick.
And what's the best way for folks to reach out and connect with you guys?
Obviously, our website has everything, designmanager.com. You can contact us right on there on the contact page. If you want to send an email right away, right now, sales@designmanager.com.
So excited to have Lindsay and Design Manager supporting the Chaise Lounge. You need a system to run your business. If you're running it off of QuickBooks and piece together Microsoft programs, you need to have a system that makes it easy for you to track your customers, easy to track all of the stuff for your customers. You need to go check them out. So designmanager.com is the website, and let them know that you heard about them at the Chaise Lounge. So once again, we've got a great interview today with the designer, and this designer's out of Chicago, so my hometown, and I actually had forgotten that, but when we get into it, and you'll hear it in the interview. Susan Brunstrum from Sweet Peas Design. She's got a great story. I've re-listened to the interview since I conducted the interview, and I just fell in love with Susan and her story, and I think you are going to fall in love with her as well. She had some tragedy in her life, and that kind of led her into the interior design world, and she utilized a career in marketing to really find joy and passion in a new career in interior design. And you may find a few things that you resonate with, and some things that I know you're going to learn a bunch of stuff, because she's got a ton of stuff that she shares. So let's jump into my interview with Susan. Well, welcome to the lounge today, Susan. Where are you in the world?
I am here in Libertyville, Illinois, which is outside of Chicago, a northern suburb.
That is correct. I forgot about that. You are in my backyard where I grew up.
Oh, I didn't know that. Where did you grow up, Nick?
I grew up in St. Charles, Illinois.
Oh, yep, not too far. You're a little west, we're a little north.
Yeah.
I raised my children here in Libertyville, and I have since moved into the city of Chicago in the Gold Coast, and we're hopeful to be opening a second studio there in the next year or so.
Oh, fantastic. So let's start with a little bit of getting to know you a little bit, Susan. Beer, wine, or a cocktail?
Oh, none of the above. Prosecco.
Oh, okay. And where'd you go to school?
Undergraduate, University of Illinois in Champaign, and my undergraduate degree was in marketing communications and advertising, and then I got my master's in advertising from Northwestern.
Oh, fantastic. So did you go into advertising and PR?
I did. I went right from undergraduate to graduate school, and then when I got out of graduate school, instead of working for an ad agency right away, I made the decision to go to the client side of the business, and I went to work corporately, and I worked for Baxter Healthcare Corporation. and I was in the marketing communications department there for one of their divisions, and then kind of kept moving up and left there about 6 years after I started, and then went to the ad agency side of the business and worked in an agency that was predominantly business-to-business healthcare and pharmaceuticals. And then my next move was to work for a small marketing communications firm, one in which I had actually worked with quite extensively when I was at Baxter. And I was sort of in charge of all the account management and bringing in new business to them. And my next move after that was to start my own marketing communications firm with a partner. And I had that for almost 10 years, and then decided I needed a lifestyle change.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I got into interior design.
Well, what was the impetus for you to go into interior design? Something must have happened.
It did. My children were 6 and 8, and my husband passed away suddenly of colon cancer. And I no longer wanted to do what I had been doing. I just needed something totally different, totally new, yet using my creative talents. And quite frankly, interior design kind of dropped in my lap. We had built a home and had been in it for less than a year. And so I kind of took all of my, I guess, I don't know how to say it. I guess I just decided that I needed to focus, and the focus was on our home and making it a home for my children and I. And so after that was done, I had a lot of people saying to me, "Oh my gosh, who did your home? Who did you work with?" And I said, "Oh, that was me." And then, lo and behold, my daughter's best friend, her parents owned a dental practice and had just bought a new office space and needed help with the design of it. And they asked if I would help pick paint colors. And that was a $100,000 project, and it was my first one. And honestly, Nick, I had no idea what I was doing. I really had no idea what I was doing. I could pick paint colors, but I'd never worked in a commercial space before. And it just snowballed. And then, all of their patients were asking who worked on your space, who created it. And so my girlfriend called me. She said, "Susan, our clients are calling, our patients are calling, you need to think about this." And I said, "No, this was just something to help me out. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do." And at the same time, right around that time, I had 3 calls from friends and or acquaintances with whole house projects. And
that's amazing.
It is amazing. And I thought, oh my gosh, my path is sort of before me. And I wasn't really sure the direction that I was going to head. I actually thought that I was going to get into fundraising for cancer research. I had gone to the Susan G. Komen Foundation and had met with the executives there for a week and had planned on starting a colon cancer research foundation. But that was right at the time when Katie Couric did that. And she's Katie Couric.
Right.
But I'm me. So I thought, okay, This is kind of taken care of. I really had thought that was going to be sort of the next stage of my life. And I had just was dabbling in this and didn't really have, an idea of where it could lead. I just knew that the first project that I worked on was gratifying and to see, the expressions on Kim and Bob's face when they walked in and it was all completed and having the accolades from doing that, I thought, oh my gosh, I think this is kind of fun. I think I could do this. But I also realized that I did not have, that I didn't have the background in design. What I did have was a marketing and advertising background. I had a corporate background. I'd run my own business. I had worked with consultants. I'd had to staff before. So I understood the business side of things. I didn't know the nuances of design. So I started to learn as much as I could. I have not been schooled in design. However, my entire staff has been. So I've grown my business from me out of my house 12 years ago to now myself, and we have 4 others. And I'm about to hire a 5th.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, how did you charge that very first time? That's one of the questions I always ask people. Do you remember your very first client? How did you come up with a fee structure? Was it just a wet finger in the air?
It sort of was. And actually, I can remember standing in front of the mirror practicing going, you can ask for this, Susan. You can ask for this amount of money. You can do this. Because you're so unsure of yourself. You don't really know. So I charged $75 an hour.
For the very first, and that was the dental office?
That was the dental office, yep.
And then when you started to take on other clients, did that fee change right away, or did you?
No, I stayed at that fee for about a year and a half, I think, maybe 2 years. Yep, when I was still on my own.
Okay. How long did it take before you hired your first staff member?
So my first staff member was an accountant, and she came to work for me part-time in my home. And that was probably 2003. I'm sorry, I'm thinking here. 2003, probably 3 years after I started. Okay. I realized when I was doing all the billing late at night that just wasn't going to work. Yeah. So my first hire was an accountant, and then I simultaneously hired an architect associate, and that's Jennifer Torello, and she's still here with me today, and I couldn't do this without her. She's fabulous. And then at the same time, I brought on, right around the same time, Beth Queaton came on, and she's our senior designer. And again, we really work as a team. So we wouldn't be where we are today without either of those gals. They have just been by my side and helping grow this business from very early on.
Well, it's very evident in your marketing on your website that you do have this marketing component. It's very strong. It's great branding. Where did the name Sweet Peas Design come from?
So that is a long story, but I will make it short. When I was in college and undergraduate, I was in a sorority house. I was Kappa Kappa Gamma, and one of my dear friends was also in advertising and marketing communications with me, and we were the only 2 in the house. And her name is Nanette, and everyone calls her Nini. And there were 25 Susies or Susans in the house at the time, and so we all got called by our last names, and my maiden name is Paletti. So somehow, over the course of college, she became Knees and I became Peas. Are you getting close to understanding?
Yeah, that's great.
So she and I are still very dear friends, and when I realized that, oh my gosh, this path is before me. I can either jump on it or not. When, we had I just finished the dental office and I had these 3 potential client calls. I thought, oh my gosh, okay, I need to decide here. Is this going to be where I head next? And I called Nini and I said, Nini, I've got this opportunity. And I said, and here's the funny thing about it. I have no business name. I don't have a background, and what I've done for a living for all these years is help other clients with strategy and putting together their communications plan and their strategic plan, and I have none of that. I have none of that. And she said, oh my gosh, you don't need it. She said, just take the leap and do this, Susan. And I said, all right, but I need a company name. And she said, really? You need a company name? Come on. Everybody calls you Sweet Peas. And I'm like, okay, Sweet Peas Design, there it is.
That's great. I love just the playfulness of it.
Yeah, and I also like that it's not my name. Mm-hmm. There are so many design firms that, like legal firms, like lawyers, that are named after the principal. And I didn't want that. I always have wanted the company to grow beyond just me.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. That when I started my painting business here in Denver, that's the same kind of mentality that I had. I wanted to be a part of it, but I didn't want to be the name of it.
Right.
So now you've got a staff of almost 5.
Mm-hmm.
And what have been some of the bigger challenges as you've grown?
I think because of the recession, the market really changed, and how we work with clients had to change as well. And I am a big proponent of change, but not just for change's sake, but if it's going to help us and better us. So I'm always looking for ways, that we can do things better. So we try to sit down and have weekly staff meetings. We try to, the beginning of every year, I review the year prior, what went well, what didn't, what's our strategy. We sit and we have a team meeting and discuss, what's upcoming for the next year, what directions are we headed in, why. I think that's all key. I try to keep my staff as informed as possible as to why we do what we do. And I also try to keep our clients informed as well. I think one of the things that's changed dramatically for us is quite frankly, the way in which we do work with our clients. When I started out, I charged hourly, and we purchased, for the most part, through retailers. We don't do that at all anymore. We have accounts direct with manufacturers, wholesale. We buy from showrooms at the Merchandise Mart. We offer 2 ways in which clients can collaborate with us, either on an hourly fee or a project fee. And now we're really managing all of our projects. And I think having Jennifer on staff as our architect associate, we get involved in a lot of renovations and updates that I feel like a lot of design firms don't, like with kitchens and baths and additions and new construction and that type of thing. And that really, having both the diversity to be able to handle that as well as furnishings has really helped us throughout the years.
Now, do you guys have a retail shop? I see on your website that people looks like you can buy things on your website.
You can. Technically, we're not retail. We're zoned to be, but we don't sell retail. However, we have lots of accessories and occasional pieces that we bring in for clients, and then I buy more so that we have them at our fingertips when we're going to accessorize a client's home. It's not that that's all we use. We go wherever we need to find our accessories, and we purchase direct. We go to showrooms again, but I like to have things here in the studio, and you'd be amazed. Even clients will come in and pick up a birthday gift for a friend, or that type of thing. So it's nice to have them on hand.
Yeah, will you do that downtown Chicago as well?
Not sure yet. I'm still figuring that out. I'm not 100% sure. I think that will just be a studio.
Now, do you guys do mostly residential? Do you still do some commercial, or is there a split?
No, I would say we're 99% residential.
Okay.
Yeah. Occasionally, we've done a couple of foyers for smaller corporations. And typically the way that happens is that we're working with the client on their home, and it happens that, he or she has their own business or, has a small business. And so we'll get involved with their office or a foyer or a conference room, that type of thing. But no, we don't do big commercial work.
Okay. Now, are you working just in Chicago, or have you guys spread out and done projects in other states?
We've done projects in other states, and I have to tell you, I love working on vacation homes. I love it. A, it's a chance to travel, but B, often the client is someone that we've worked with on their primary residence, and so we already know them, and so it makes it easier. But even if it's not, I have found that people are a little bit more laid back when it comes to their second home, and they want it to be different than their primary residence. And so they're often willing to take a little bit more risk, and that can be really fun for us.
Sure. And probably a lot of times, because it's not where they're living, there's maybe a little bit less time constraints. Would that be accurate?
No, not really. Sometimes we're under the gun to be for certain. Like we finished a home in Park City, Utah, and we were given the job in October, and it needed to be ready by Christmas.
Yeah,
the whole house for ski season. You know, so
right.
Yes and no. It depends on the project. You know, sometimes we're under the gun because of because of just when they use the space, and other times we would have more time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some other, where else have you worked besides Park City?
We've worked in Colorado.
Fantastic place.
Yes, I love it. I actually love Colorado in the spring and the summer as much as in the winter.
Me too, actually.
You know, yeah, I didn't realize that until we worked on this home out there and we were there in the summer, and I thought, I could live here. I could retire here. This would be beautiful. I'd only seen it in the winter when I was there skiing. So yes, so that was fun. So we're working on a house in Michigan right now, up in Grand Haven, which is in the pretty northern part of Michigan, second home for a client, and loving that. It's right on Lake Michigan. So, yeah, you know, each one is different. Now, this one we've worked on since last summer, and we're just finishing up. I'd say we'll finish up in the next couple months here. Where's
been your favorite place to work?
My favorite place to work. I don't know if I have an answer. I kind of fall in love with each of the places that we go to, just because we're there a fair amount, and it's something different than home. I mean, I love Park City because it was so quaint, and people were so friendly, and their whole, I love all the art there, and I don't know, and yet Grand Haven, I could walk that beach for hours and just be very quiet. I really enjoy doing that when I'm there because it's so frenzied that I'll just quietly take off by myself in the beginning of the day or the end of the day and just kind of recharge. So I've really liked everywhere we've been. I think the hardest project we've ever had is my own spaces. It's my own home.
Always.
Yep. And I've been moving a lot, so it's been challenging.
It's funny how we second guess ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with a client, it's boom, 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 make the decision. Yep,
right.
That's the right decision to make. And then with me, it's like, ooh. I think it's because I know all the possibilities.
Right.
And also because I always put myself last, because I'm trying to get all the project work done for our clients, and then I just quickly will make a decision on something for myself.
Sure.
Whereas with a client, I would never do that, and I always think through it to the nth degree. But with me, it's like, oh, yeah, that looks good. Let's order it.
Well, one of the topics I always like to talk about is marketing and getting new business. And since you have such a strong marketing background, what do you guys do to make sure that funnel of customers is continuing to come in?
Well, a couple of things. It's interesting because for everywhere that we are from a social media perspective, I think that's all fabulous, and it has helped raise the identity of our brand and raise awareness of who we are. But at the end of the day, Nick, I'm going to tell you, it still comes back to one-on-one referrals and meeting people, networking and meeting people. And then it comes down to having great communication skills and really listening to what a potential client has to say and what it is that they're trying to accomplish, and giving them what they need and not more than they need.
Yeah, a lot of times it's kind of reading in between the lines.
It is. So we have an intake form that we use. If people call or come in through our website or call, and one of my staff will go ahead and kind of talk to the potential client on the phone, and then I get all that information, and then I call them back. And we typically have a 15-minute to a half an hour discussion about the project. And then we would potentially set up an initial consultation in their home. And at that point, once I have a better understanding of who they are and what the project entails, the size and scope and timing and budget and all of that, then we would put together a letter of agreement based on what it is, their needs are. And then at that point, I come back and review that letter of agreement with them. And once that's signed and ready to go, then we would start our project.
How else do you, like, what are some marketing things that you guys do?
Tips. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Got it. Okay. So we were one of the early adopters on House. So we're there. We are on many other websites, like the Merchandise Smart website, websites in our area. We're on Refined Haystack. So we try to get involved in as much social media as possible. We blog 3 to 4 times a week. We have an e-newsletter that goes out once a month to once every other month. If we don't put out an e-newsletter, we do a blog roll-up. So maybe people that don't read our blog all the time get an idea of what we've been blogging about in an e-blog type of format. Once a year, we will have a party for our clients here in our studio. Just invite them to invite them to bring a friend. That's always been really popular for us, and we always get new clients from that. We create a book at the end of our projects with our clients and give that to them so they can see really the project as it's transformed and their home as it's transformed from when we started to when we finished. And our clients love that.
Yeah, that's kind of the gift that keeps on giving.
It is. It is. We started out having the exterior of their home sketched, and, as blurb books and, all of that kind of became popular, and it was easier to actually design a book. We started designing a book for our clients, if we've had the home professionally photographed.
Well, and it looks like from your website, most of your projects are.
Yeah, we don't professionally photograph everything, but we professionally photograph a fair amount of them. And I have to tell you, the clients love getting the books.
Well, I can imagine, having a book that sits on the coffee table, they want to share that with other people.
Yeah, they do. They do.
And then your name and your firm is in front of all of their friends.
Right. So they really, that has been a fabulous marketing tool for us. We've never advertised. I've never advertised in a publication. And that's sort of odd, being that my background is in advertising.
I was just going to say, from somebody who comes from advertising.
Yes. However, we work really hard from a PR perspective because I feel in this market that potential clients and people respond better to reading about you third person from someone else versus advertising our own capabilities. So we've worked really hard on getting good public relations. And I've hired a PR expert. Laura's been with us now for 4 years. And
so in-house?
No, she is out of house, but we are her only design firm.
Okay.
She has a couple other clients, but
Sure.
We're her only design firm. Yes.
Awesome.
So we've really been diligent about honing in on our message and what that is and making sure that it's consistent, because I think that's key. Yeah. That the consistency is there and in whatever communications we send out.
So what would you say is your message then?
Oh, our message is we have a livable luxe style. I call it the little black dress of interior design. I feel like our style can really work well with almost anyone. It can be brought up, brought down. It works for everybody. We can dress it up, dress it down. And people like that. We want you to be comfortable in your home and feel when you walk in the door that you go, I'm home. I don't want a home that you can't sit on the sofas, your kids can't wrestle on the sofa, or the dog can't jump on the sofa. We want homes that reflect our clients and make them really feel comfortable when they come home.
Well, and that's pretty easy to do once you've gotten to know the client. Maybe you've done a second home for them. How do you get to know them on the front end? Is it that questionnaire that you mentioned earlier?
Well, that's a little questionnaire, sort of an intake. Actually, when we start with a client, we actually have a longer questionnaire that we work with them on and fill out, kind of a getting to know you. And we ask some questions that, where do you like to shop? What makes you smile? Where's your favorite vacation spot? Little things that help us get to know them. And that is, as you are totally correct, is definitely the key. We work so much better and collaborate so much better with our clients that we really get to know. And that's a two-way street. They have to let us in. And we discuss that on the initial consultation. So much of it is, I look at it as a three-legged stool. You have to have good communication. You have to have trust in each other, and you have to have respect with each other. And if you have those three things, the project will really run smoothly, and the end result will be a home that they want to be in. But if there's not those three components, like if you start to lose, like if they don't trust in the decisions that we're making with them together, that starts, that can erode the relationship. If they don't respect you and we don't respect them, then again, that relationship can start to erode. And if the communication isn't there, the same thing can happen. So those are the three things that, at least for me, I always talk to our clients about.
Have you ever had to fire a client?
Yes, I have. And I got to tell you, it's scary the first time you do it. But we're not for everybody, and everybody's not for us. And sometimes you don't know that until you get down the path a little bit. But we're always very polite about it, and we just would say we're not probably the best team for you. And I always offer options of other designers in the area that I know that I think would be a better fit. Because you know what? You don't want that, and the client doesn't want it. It should be an enjoyable experience. Working with a design firm should just be enjoyable. And if it's not, if I'm dreading a phone call or they're dreading my phone call or email, it's not the right relationship.
Right.
It just isn't.
Absolutely.
And it has to be to work. It really, really does.
Now, it sounds like you've built a pretty good cohesive team, and you're about to hire a fifth person. So what are those things that you look for when you're hiring somebody for your staff?
Well, because we're a small business, fit is really important. How are they going to fit with the other, group of us that are already part of the team? I think that's as important. Right now, I am looking for someone with some experience. So what experience have they had? How well do they work within a team? Because we are a team here. There's a lot of firms that don't work in as much of a team environment, and we really do. So we rely on each other and each other's expertise, in certain areas, and regard that highly. So when I'm looking for someone, I'm looking for that fit. I'm looking for that personality. They have to have great communication skills because they will be in front of our clients. They have to have great written skills because there's a lot that goes back and forth via email, following up on a project, on details of a project. So that's all important. So communication, written skills, presentation skills. They have to be able to feel comfortable one-on-one or in a bigger audience situation as well. And those are really it. I think as far as expertise, yes, having some is important, but we can really train for what we need.
Do you ever hire folks that are coming right out of design school?
I do. My junior designer graduated 2 years ago from Harrington, and prior to that, she was our summer intern. So yes. What I'm finding though is the younger ones coming right out of design school do not have. They're very skilled on the computer, but they have not been given enough training in how to run the business. Like, why is it important For example, when we're making selections to make sure that the pricing is appropriate, and how does that translate into pricing for the client, and the business side of it, they just don't have. They don't understand it, and I think that's a huge issue.
Well, and that's pretty much where the whole idea of this podcast came from, is because I work with a lot of designers here in Denver, and I've noticed that a lot of them, I'm not going to say all of them, obviously,
yeah, right.
But a lot of them, they may be great designers, but where it falls short is on that business side. That communication piece that you talked about so many times is so key critical. And from my perspective of being one of their subcontractors, if they're not communicating well with me, I'm guessing that they're not communicating it that well in other areas, with their clients and with other subs. And it's just, it's a domino effect.
Oh, totally. Your accounting practices have to be buttoned up, both to your vendors as well as to your clients. You have to invoice when you say you're going to invoice. You have to, whatever your procedures are, you need to follow them. You can't change. You can't. For example, if we make a mistake, let's say we're pricing an ottoman for a client and we've got 4 yards of fabric and, from one manufacturer and the ottoman from another manufacturer, and we price that and give that to the client. And then we find out that, because of the repeat on that, now the manufacturer is asking for 5 yards of fabric. I would never go back to my client and say, guess what? We made a mistake. I need to charge you for another yard of fabric. That would have been our mistake for not dotting our I's and crossing our T's and giving them the vertical and horizontal repeat to know that I needed 5 yards of fabric.
Absolutely.
So it's things like that. And I know that sounds really, like, well, of course you wouldn't do that. You'd be amazed. People do it. So I could just never do that. So our procedures, we're very procedure oriented here on everything. That doesn't mean mistakes don't happen. They do. It's the nature of, it's sort of the nature of this industry, because we don't ever do the same thing twice, Nick, because if we did, we'd be out of business. So everything we do is one of a kind. So we're dealing with so many different manufacturers and so many different vendors and so many different contractors and subcontractors and all of that this is really one of the more detailed businesses that I know of. And I don't think a lot of clients recognize that, how detailed it is. And if you don't have a good set of procedures to run your business, you could really get tripped up really easily.
I think it all comes down to the procedures and policies that you put in place in your business. We hired a consultant, maybe 3 years ago to come in and systematize everything that we were doing. And, so now we have checklists so that things don't go wrong. And I'm amazed so often one of the processes that we have is once we've signed a contract, we do a project meeting. This probably sounds pretty normal for you. You guys probably do these. But a lot of the designers that I'll work with will say, well, do I really need to come and do that?
Yes.
And I always say, yeah, we need to make sure we've got all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. We've got to make sure that nothing has changed. And are you going to add something? And what is it going to be like to work in this particular property? So it always amazes me how many times the folks don't see that. But it's so key critical.
Well, and so is project management. One of the things that I hear a lot is you guys get the job done when you say you're going to do it. And that's amazing. There's the project management end on the contracting side. When we're involved, we're really running the project, with the contractor, but we're making sure that all of, the material selection, such as your cabinetry, your countertops, your plumbing, your lighting, that's all on site when it needs to be there for the contractor to get the work done. So he can handle the labor and execution. But we handle all those selections and make sure they're ready and they're on site. And then we're on site as much as needed to make sure that the project is flowing smoothly so that the client doesn't have to worry about that. That's really why clients hire us, is to get the job done for them and get it done right and on time and on budget. And I think we do a really good job of the project management side of it as well.
So that leads me to another question. How do you track all of those things?
So we track all of our hours, and each of us tracks the hours that we spend on a project and what we're doing for that project. And we actually divide a project into 7 phases, and not every project needs 7 phases. And so we track our hours by each of those phases. So I can go back and tell you this project took this amount of hours to complete, and in this phase we spent this many hours, and in this phase we spent that many hours, and we do that. So then if we get another project that's similar to that, I know in my head, oh, this is going to take, X hours, give or take. So we use projects that we've completed before if we're going to work with a client on a project fee to determine how many hours I think that project will take.
So what's next? What's on the horizon for you guys?
A second studio in Chicago. And then we've recently been on television, and I have the TV bug. I have to tell you, I have loved it. I have just so enjoyed the TV side of things and didn't realize the details that went into creating a television show. It's the same as what we have to do, but different, I would like to be part of a show, create a show. I'm not sure. I think television, again, has elevated design and design professionals in a way that prior to some of these TV shows didn't exist. And I think much of the public thought, gosh, designers are, just for the uber wealthy. And I think television has shown that, no, that's not true, that designers are for everyone. And so that's been good. On the negative side, I think some of what's been shown on television is that design is fast and cheap. And it's not. It could be one, it could be the other, but it can't be both. And so I think there's room to show or to have a show that talks a little bit more about the reality of design and bringing lots of designers together to do that. So
yeah, there's a lot of shows that it's really hard to see the quality of what they're actually making. And so it looks fantastic from a distance, but you would never, it's kind of like you go into a model home for a new house subdivision.
Right.
It looks great from a distance, but then you sit down on the couch and you're like, oh, this isn't that great. Or you even see the television isn't even real,
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's kind of this fast and cheap thing. So I'd like to get involved somehow in television, so that it's not just that. I don't know where that's going to take me yet, but I'm loving it.
Sure.
And I think there's an opportunity there.
Do you find that show houses are worth the time and effort to do them?
Yes, I believe show houses have a purpose, and they should be part of your marketing plan, if it's the right show house for you and for the clientele you're trying to attract. They are not inexpensive to participate in. You also can't stop working with all your existing clients and only focus on a show house. It has to be, you have to treat the show house as another client. But at the end of the day, yes, I have found that they have been productive to our business. And this is the third one that we've participated in. In the first one, we ended up with 2 clients. The second one, we didn't get a client from, but we won an award for our room. So that in turn, really was good from a public relations perspective. But the reason that I really enjoy them is it's also a chance to give back, because they're always a fundraising effort. And to me, that's a key component. And I like that I'm being able to give back right in my own community, right in the Chicago area. And that's always been exceptionally important to me. And as my business has grown, I have not had the time like I used to, to help, and give of my time to organizations. And so this is a way that I can do that.
Sure. Yeah. Last question I've got for you. If you could go back to the beginning when you first started, what would you do different? I
don't think I would do anything different, Nick. I think what I what I didn't realize was the time and effort it would take to grow a business.
It's not instant gratification, is it?
It's not instant gratification. And I was a bit naive, as the business was building, I recognized, working 50, 60, 65, 70-hour weeks, you have to do it when it's yours. And I also made sure that I always was paying my staff and my vendors first, and I was the last one to get paid. And so there's years where, as you're building a business, you're not going to see a lot of money out of it. And that's normal. Those first few years, that's normal. And you have to have the reserves, to understand that and know that. And it's baby steps. It's like baby steps, and then you take a leap, and then there's a few more baby steps, and then another leap. And I guess in retrospect, I wouldn't have changed anything. I think it's crucial as an entrepreneur that you recognize and value who you are and what you're good at. And you have to have that faith in yourself that you're going to succeed, because most businesses don't. And so you have to have that faith in yourself that, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And every day know that you can. And that's how you keep moving forward.
And I like that you brought in people to do the things that you knew you weren't necessarily good at.
Yep. You have to know that. Yep. Because otherwise you can't grow. You absolutely can't grow because you can't continue to do it all. So know your strengths and know your weaknesses, and hire for your weaknesses first. Like for me, I hired my accountant first. Not necessarily it was because it was my weakness, but because I found that was the last thing I was doing. So I was dreading it. I was doing it at night. It wasn't that I didn't like to do it. It was that I wasn't making the time for it. And so I thought I need to spend my time doing what I do best and what I enjoy the most. And for me, what that is right now is the clients. I love meeting with our clients initially and figuring out what it is they need and trying to help them solve their problem, because that's really what we're doing. We're solving the problem. Yep. And I love that part. I love the strategy of it. And then I love the end of it. I love when it's all come together and they're just so excited, by what we've created with them. Mm-hmm. And I want to emphasize that, because so much of what we do and the way in which we do it it's very collaborative with our clients, very collaborative. And I think that's key to a fabulous home at the end.
Well, thanks, Susan, for coming on the show and sharing all of your experiences over the last, I don't know, I didn't add up all the years that we've talked about, but there's quite a few.
12 in May.
Oh, I meant all the way back to, your advertising and PR. I mean,
if you're trying to get me to tell my age.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Just all the different experiences. It has all led to this. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been a joy.
Well, huge show today, guys, but I hope you got some really, really great stuff out of it. If you didn't get anything great out of this show today, maybe you're still sleeping. You got to go have some more coffee, and you got to re-listen to the show. I'm super excited to have Design Manager on as a sponsor. Please check them out. And don't forget, we've got VA Staffer. Jay is doing a fantastic job. We're going to have him on the show very shortly to share what he does and what his team can do for you in the way of web. But go check them out at vastaffer.com. Of course, you can always connect with us on our website at thechaiseloungepodcast.com. And don't forget, if you ever have a project in Denver and need a paint contractor, that's what I do. wallsbydesign.com, and you can check out our website and see some of VA Staffer's handiwork, because they have just finished our brand new website. So until next time, I'm Nick May, reminding you to keep dreaming big and keep designing a great design business. We'll see you soon.